Collagen is the most abundant protein in your body and is essentially the glue that holds you together. In fact, after age 20, people produce 12% less collagen in their skin each decade. Collagen depletion is what makes you look old. Most collagen supplements do not provide the hydrolyzed bioactive collagen peptides that enable your body to digest collagen properly, plus it tastes badly. BioTrust gives you the 5 most available kinds of collagens that dissolve easily in hot or cold liquids with zero taste. You can add it to your coffee, tea, or smoothies, or even baked goods recipes. So to look and feel younger fast, go to www.healthwithbill.com. Good morning. I'm still reporting on the coup. The entire philosophy of the infrastructure bill is backwards, and what the Republican RINOs in the Senate have done has nearly doubled the cost. So let's figure out exactly what's going on here. The early negotiations with the RINO senators was about how much spending they would support and what specific projects would have to be included to gain their support. The Democrats act like they have this huge pile of money, and the mean old Republicans won't let them shovel some of it over to the states and cities for much-needed infrastructure construction and repair. But that is not quite an accurate portrayal of the financial status of the federal government in 2021. The federal government doesn't have any money and is $28 trillion in debt without adding another trillion and then an additional $3.5 trillion in spending. The difference is that the federal government can simply write itself another loan with no plan on how to ever pay it back. But guess what? The bond dealers love it, because selling the bonds of the U.S. government, which is how the government borrows its money, is one of the most lucrative businesses in the world. And the bond buyers of this government debt don't care. Why? Because they get rich off the interest paid by those bonds to the tune of over $500 billion per year. So spend all you want. Yes, the more you spend, the faster inflation rises, plus taxes rise for the little people to pay for all those interest payments. One of the many problems with the infrastructure bill is that everything is backwards. Instead of starting at $2 trillion and then working that down to a figure that could attract some pseudo-Republican votes, the place where most people and governments start is to determine how much you can afford to spend and then prioritize the list and cover as many of the most critical infrastructure needs as possible with the money available. But again, there is no money available. This is the insane debt money system in which we live. All of our money is debt. One part of the new plan calls for the federal government to pay for electric vehicle charging stations all over the country. The reason they don't currently exist is that they aren't needed. There are not enough electric vehicles out there looking for a place to charge up to make them profitable for folks to invest into them as a business. When electric vehicle sales get to the point that charging stations are needed, fear not. Private enterprise will swoop in to provide them, just as private industry provides gas stations today. So the only reason the new infrastructure bill is mandating them is to give every politician who is in a position to vote for them a small piece of the action which they can dish out to their friends to ensure the re-election. And the now compliant media won't stand up and scream about this. Why? Could it possibly be that they are in on the take some way? It appears that what the RINOs in the Senate, a group which now includes Senator Mitch McConnell, have done is taken a $2.3 trillion spending plan by the Democrats and turned it into 2 bills that currently total $4.5 trillion. So the original Biden infrastructure plan was for $2.3 trillion. Then, in order to get the support of senators who have an R by their names but otherwise don't uphold long-held Republican principles, $1.2 trillion was added in, which was supposed to be real infrastructure projects but aren't really. And now the Senate is set to pass this additional $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill with what has swollen to be the new $3.3 trillion infrastructure bill in the House of Representatives, passed with only Democrat votes. There is no plus for the Republican Party for the Senate to pass a $1.2 trillion plan to spend money on pet projects, a few of which could be considered infrastructure. There is a huge plus for the Republican Party to defeat the runaway spending by the Democrats. But the idea that the Republicans in the Senate are simply adding $1.2 trillion to what the Democrats were already going to spend is outrageous, and shows that the Democrat leadership has outmaneuvered the Republicans in the Senate at every turn. All the Republicans in the Senate have done is added their own $1.2 trillion, and in return skillfully tricked the Desperado gang into adding an additional $1 trillion to their original $2.3 trillion wish list. The grand total of all this comes to a nice round $4.5 trillion giveaway to everyone's friends and neighbors, the largest in American history. Who benefits? Well, the money goes into the pockets of contractors, who then reward the folks in Congress who voted for it with permanent re-election. As they say, wash, rinse, repeat. If the goal was to trick the Democrats into spending more money, the RINOS in the Senate have been remarkably successful. But the country would be far better off if the RINOS would go back to support the original plan to spend $2.3 trillion the federal government doesn't have, instead of spending an additional $1.2 trillion to dish out money to their own friends and neighbors, who will then contribute to their re-election campaigns. If you are confused now, this is the most important part of these two new spending plans. I'm still reporting from the soon-to-be-restored Citadel of World Freedom. Good day.